program.
Gandhism is a philosophy and approach to life inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. Non-violence, ahimsa, satyagraha, sarvodaya, swaraj, trusteeship, and swadeshi are the significant pillars of Gandhism. In short, simple living and high thinking is the core idea of Gandhism. It appears to be simple, but in real life, practicing it in our everyday life is complicated. For instance, remaining truthful, tolerant, and non-violent, respecting others in difficult circumstances requires significant commitment. Let's hear from the person who walks the talk, Shri S.M. Vijayanand IAS, former Chief Secretary Keralam, about his take on Gandhism and its relevance for us today.
Good morning, young friends. Today we will be talking about the relevance of Gandhiji to the current times. Just 4 years ago, we celebrated his 150th birth anniversary. It was more of a ritual. Very few people, particularly youngsters, try to reflect on the relevance of Gandhiji. But interestingly, after 150 years, Gandhiji is more relevant now than perhaps he was during his times. A lot of people, seeing the current times, the turbulence during the current times, are revisiting, rereading his writings, reinterpreting and reappreciating, and importantly, happily accepting his ideas. So let's first come to politics. We know the troubled politics of the current times, not only in India, but in the whole world, including USA, one of the oldest democracy. And Gandhiji was a Republican. Republican means the citizen is more important, not the ruler. Gandhiji was a real Republican. And he said the power holder should be really responsible people. They are trustees of the people. We trust them. We are the rulers. We trust them. And they rule on our behalf. And he believed in participatory local democracy, the so-called Panchayati Raj, where panchayats are not the lowest tier of governance, but they are in the center of governance. That's very important. Now we see, okay, there's government of India, state government, district, and the panchayat. But to him, it was panchayat moving outwards. And he said, working as a local representative is a sacred task. And it really benefits you because you always have to be face to face with the people. That was his concept of people's representative. And they should respond to people's demands, to satyagraha. Satyagraha is not just what we see. Satyagraha is a kind of desire for truth that brings you out to seek something for common good. It's not a fight against government. It's not a fight against anybody. It is people seeking for common good. And that is very, very important from the politics. And politics of principles, as I said, that is the core thing of Gandhiji. Now coming to citizens. Gandhiji, as I said, he was a Republican, which said most importance to the active citizenry. Active citizenry, not passive citizenry. We just keep back, but he wants you to reflect on everything, development, politics, social things. And he said public opinion can do what violence can never do. So that's very, very important. Public opinion is non-violent and it is more powerful than violence. That is a great learning we have from Gandhiji. And another important thing, citizens are not selfish. We have rights and duties. He said self-help and mutual help. That is the role of the citizenry. So it's a cooperative citizenry where we are all together, common for common good. And ever ready for Shramdan. We are willing to give our capacity to serve the society. Shram means some kind of work. Need not be physical work. Now many of us cannot do physical work. But we can contribute to the society through a modern intellectual Shramdan is possible, particularly for people like you. Just go around and see, visit. To take Gandhiji's ideas to practice, just visit some poor localities in and around your school. Just go and see something where nature is either pristine or it has been damaged, and learn. These kind of things can teach you more than probably textbooks or even teachers. So there's a kind, it's called immersion. Gandhiji encourages immersion. When Gandhiji returned to India from South Africa, what he did was he traveled up and down the country in third class. In those days, they were third class compartments. And he saw India as it was, not the so-called tourism places, went into the country, and that gave him the great understanding of the nation. So that's the kind of understanding which is relevant even to our academic life, even to our examination, even to our lessons. So that's a big lesson from Gandhiji on citizenry. And there is also his concept of citizen is you have the sense of capacity to regulate and control authority. Bit difficult at a young age, but later on you develop that capacity to realize when government is doing a wrong thing and you respond. Need not be. Mostly Gandhiji's response was peaceful and conciliatory and consensus and discussion oriented. And a true satyagrahi, a citizen, as I said earlier, is a true satyagrahi, which is, satyagraha means public action for common good, not for selfish good, for common good. And there is a rights and duties balance in a citizen. Now coming to governance, participatory governance, citizen, panchayat, and they decide, they are executive, judiciary, and the legislature rolled into one. Not that they will be arbitrary, it's a common decision. People set their rules, of course within a framework of law, and they collectively decide what they will do. And what is the role of officials? It is to motivate people. They are extension officers. In fact, learning from Gandhiji, immediately after independence, we created National Extension Service. Now they are called, now that post is already almost gone, where officers used to move out of offices into villages. In fact, the rural India, whatever transformation it got, the foundation was laid in the 50s and 60s using the Gram Sevaks, who were the extension officers. And Sevak is very important. You are not an officer. So you are taking a development message from out of the office and convincing people even to change their behavior. Using these techniques, basic behavior of people could be changed. Now we have lost that capacity. For example, one of the most difficult things to change is your food. You hear so many things about, negative things about the food we are consuming, the fast food, but it's very difficult to change. But let me tell you, for a rice eaters like Keralites, at a time when there was a huge shortage of rice in late 40s and 50s, these extension officers used to go, particularly the women extension officers called Gram Sevikas, used to go to villages and convince people that tasty food can be made using wheat. We were not familiar with wheat. People didn't like wheat, but they adopted it. Now there is a great movement, a very positive movement to make people understand that good local food can be made using millets. That's a Gandhian lesson. Traditional cereals. You can make very good food, but these days it's much more difficult to convince people. And governance is for social justice. What is social justice? Social justice is correcting historical injustice, untouchability, religious divide, that is for communal amity, and bringing about more and more social and economic inequality. So Gandhiji was a strong supporter of social justice. If you reflect, that is something which is lacking even after 75 years of importance. So the biggest relevance of Gandhiji today is in the social justice and local economic development. For example, he was against untouchability, a fight against untouchability. He said it's a blot and curse of Hinduism, and said it is repugnant to reason and to the instinct of mercy, pity and love. We shall be unfit to gain Swaraj as long as we keep in bondage a fifth of the population, meaning the Dalits. They are still better off than in 1947, but still a long way to go. So social justice, that's an important element. And he said untouchability is as sinful as a massacre of Jallianwala Bagh. And for him, temple entry was a spiritual act. Keeping people out of temples is unspiritual. And he included them. The other important element, which is India is now suffering from a lot of tensions due to communal differences. He was strongly against majoritarianism. Everybody should be included in development, in social life. He said, a heartless doctrine which says the majority can do something to the minority. And that's something, a new version of democracy which we need to understand. Of course, for deciding the ruler, we need a voting system. But after you win, you are for everybody. There is no majority minority in democracy, and Gandhiji strongly believed in it. He said, we are all children of the same parent. We are brothers and sisters. We may be different in our communities. That's the beauty of Gandhiji. Gandhiji was a very, very strong believer in Hinduism, but he accepted the best from all other religions. So he was secular. He proved that he can be secular and spiritual and deeply religious and respect others. A big lesson we need to learn now. And gender justice. That's a current topic. Everybody accepts it. Very few people practice it. Gandhiji said, of all the evils for which man has made himself responsible, none is so degrading, so shocking, or so brutal as his abuse of the better half of humanity. So he believed that women have greater moral power. They may be suffering, but they are superior to men. Of course, he believed in equality, but he thought women were superior to men. Now, coming to, he had a deep understanding of the rural society. As I mentioned it, you should also develop an understanding, not necessarily of rural society, of the society around you. And then you can have a better understanding of development and how to bring about it. And he believed, even now, yesterday, a sanitation program was inaugurated in Kerala. Sanitation was the entry point of development for Gandhiji. He said, without sanitation, you can't have any other development, which is relevant even 75 years after independence. We have a very, very long way to go to achieve sanitation, and that is his interest. And a lot of us believe that khadi is a very fanciful kind of thing, maybe out of respect for Gandhiji, maybe out of some sentiment for ethnic dress, we wear it. But to Gandhiji, it was a symbol of local sovereignty, local decision making. What is khadi? It is low capital, local materials, local technology, and minimum energy, easy processes, local job security forever, and simple, which people can understand, affordable to the consumer, and the local market is available. So khadi is a simple. Modern economic development, maybe even using artificial intelligence, can be on these principles where people don't lose jobs. People are not marginalized. They have control over their lives. That's the philosophy of local economic development. It doesn't mean you have to wear khadi and wear handmade things. It can be machine made. In fact, Gandhiji at one point of time in the 20s gave 1 lakh to an entrepreneur to devise a machine to make spinning easier. So he was never against machines. He was never against science, but science should focus on the human beings and improve their life. And it is all for poverty reduction. Gandhiji said we have got political freedom, maybe a little bit of social freedom, but economic freedom is a long way to go. That's a very difficult thing to achieve. It's not easy. It's not very spectacular. It's very slow, and he believed in what is called rural reconstruction, which can be achieved. We use a modern term, he did not use a word, called social capital, where people work together as collectives, as cooperatives, trusting each other, as I said earlier, mutual help, and that will focus. And his advice was Antyodaya. Look as the last person first. We all talk of growing inequality. How can inequality be reduced? Go to the poorest first. Give him or her something, and then inequality gets reduced. But now we don't follow that principle, and we are now facing it. Inequality, I can tell you, is more dangerous than even poverty. Finally, climate change is something, it's already taken over. We can't run away from it. Even this year is obvious in all parts of the world and very much in Kerala also. People now realize it, that this has to be, we have to do something. But Gandhiji never talked much about environment, but he was what is called a deep ecologist. That's more important. He practiced ecology. Limitation of wants, no waste. You don't consume too much. So not all of us can follow it, but there's a lot of relevance. He believed in natural farming. He believed in sustainability. He said, earth, air, land and water are not inherited from our forefathers, but we have taken it on loan from our children and we hand it over to them at least as we received. This is called sustainable development. The best definition of sustainable development, and it has to become a way of living. Let me conclude. Gandhiji had a great talisman for us. Whenever you are in doubt or when the self is too much with you, if people who are very intelligent, who have got high jobs, they'll think we know everything. And some people will have a lot of doubts. But either way, you think of the poorest and weakest person you may have ever met. And then reflect what you are going to do. Will it help that person? Will it help that person to take control of his life, achieve what is called Swaraj? Swaraj is real freedom to decide. Then go ahead and do it. It applies to everything, even in a school, in a government office, in a private enterprise, everything. Think of this message always. If you forget whatever I have said, remember this. Whenever you are about to decide, think of the poorest and weakest person and what your decision how your decision will impact that person. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Reflect on this. That's my request. Read. In 15 minutes you cannot understand Gandhiji, but read, reflect. Very critically read and reflect.
While the world has evolved since Gandhi's time, many of his principles and insights continue to offer valuable guidance and solutions to the complex challenges facing humanity today. Adapting Gandhian ideas to contemporary contexts can create a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world. If you have any doubts regarding the class, please feel free to post your queries on our website www.bhaavika.org or contact us through WhatsApp using the number provided. See you in the next session.
Bhaavika, a student enrichment program.